I had 2 inquiries in 1 week. One had a budget of 7 mil and one had a budget of 10 mil. So big figures, right? And I said no.
Emily, welcome to the show.
At the time, I had no idea what a buyer's agent or a buyer's advocate was. I educated myself on the industry and realised there was no one specialising in first home buyers. Anyone who comes on as a client with me who's come from Instagram has followed for years, whereas TikTok is like, oh, you randomly came off my FYP and I started video content on LinkedIn in late 2018 to the point where actually I got acknowledged by LinkedIn for the content that I was doing. They weren't direct to consumer. And so then I went, where are the consumers?
Would you as a business owner then double down on the personal brand?
TikTok is very faceless, so comments can be more brutal. You're seeing a key buyer. So I just typed out that profile, made a green screen and said, hey, we're missing this profile. If this is you, you know where to find me. And within 2 weeks, they bought a property with us. And it was all from one TikTok.
I think there's a risk there for the person up and leaves the business and therefore your whole brand is invested in that person's face.
If you're a generalist in a sea of same, then it's actually really hard to stand out. No way the business would be what it is without me doing content with my face on it.
Emily, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Can I ask, for a little bit of context for everyone listening, how did Wallace Advocates come to be an idea of yours? How did you start the business?
For sure. So go back about 7 years. I was 25, working in corporate and had just bought my first investment property. And at the time, I had no idea what a buyer's agent or a buyer's advocate was. So by chance, I saw an ad. Do you love searching for property in your free time? And that was me. I was searching property, loverealestate.com, found my own off-market in my own purchase pursuit. And I educated myself on the industry and realised there was no one specialising in first home buyers as a home buying advocate. And so I basically got myself up and running from the ground up in the industry. It actually was Emily Wallace Buyer's Advocate in the first instance. That was a business name because I couldn't decide on a name. We rebranded to Wallace March 1st, 2024. And here we are.
Were you already good at social media, do you think, before you got into buyer advocacy?
No. So I'd dabbled in LinkedIn a little bit. I was in recruitment, so LinkedIn was a tool that I had used regularly, but I never put my face on LinkedIn. It was always outbound cold outreach when that was actually accepted on LinkedIn, but I'd never put my face to camera until I was my own business.
And I was looking on the socials before, you've got about 26,000 on TikTok and 14,000 on Instagram.
Yep.
How did you decide, did you just go, I'm going to try every platform, or did you go, these platforms I feel like will resonate with first home buyers? How did you decide where to go? So
it actually never started on either of those platforms. It started on LinkedIn because that's what I knew. And I started video content on LinkedIn in 2018, I think it was, late 2018. And LinkedIn was the platform to the point where actually I got acknowledged by LinkedIn for the content that I was doing. And then I noticed that was a lot of B2B relationships. And whilst they were good, they weren't direct to consumer. And so then I went, where are the consumers? And that's when I started Instagram alongside LinkedIn. Instagram is still my most loyal following and people feel like they really know me on my Instagram. I share a lot more personal stuff on there rather than just business stuff. But TikTok, the algorithm of TikTok just has the best way of finding people who actually need you. And it's so instant that I've spent a lot of time on my TikTok, hence why my following on TikTok is bigger than my Instagram. So
do you get clients from both TikTok and Instagram?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Do you get any from LinkedIn?
Not anymore.
Not anymore?
No, unless they're like the OG. Like I used to put out so much content on LinkedIn. I cringe at it now. It was so bad. It was so bad. The lighting was so poor. The audio was woeful. But a lot of mortgage brokers, lawyers, accountants and stuff are on there. They might be personally buying and they've seen me on LinkedIn.
Okay. And then out of TikTok and Instagram, you said your most loyal follower is followers are all on Instagram. Yes. However, you get more out of TikTok?
Yeah, it's funny. So anyone who comes on as a client with me who's come from Instagram has followed for years. They're like, we followed you for years. We've been waiting ready to buy and now we're ready to go and we're going to use you. We've always known that we would. Whereas TikTok is like, oh, you randomly came off my FYP. We started looking about 2 weeks ago for a property and you just happened to pop up and like we didn't realise that your service existed and we're keen to use you. And they've often bulk consumed a lot of content of mine before booking a call. Mm-hmm. So it's funny. Yeah, I think Instagram's more loyal and more long-term. TikTok's very instant. There's plenty of examples of putting out a brief and getting it back quite quickly.
The return on investment's faster.
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
when it comes to actually picking what content you're going to make, you mentioned before you share more personal stuff on Instagram, whereas it's more business centric on TikTok. Have you found there's a correlation between like you actually get people reaching out off personal stuff because they feel like they know you a little bit more, or is it more they specifically like, here's 10 tips of buying at auction, and then they come straight to you for an auction? Like, is there a correlation there?
Yeah, so I think the Instagram correlation is more so with the agents that I deal with regularly. So that actually is a relationship builder for those people, which are, quote unquote clients of ours, in that, we wouldn't actually survive without them. And so I do find that happens quite a bit. TikTok is more educational in essence and more of a subject matter expert, and so it's got more authority behind it. I actually think the authority lessens if I share more personal stuff on there. So my Instagram, but people will follow me on my Instagram from TikTok. Like, they'll find the link eventually. But yeah, Instagram is more a safer space, and also it's not faceless, whereas TikTok is very faceless. So comments can be more brutal. People can feel that they can, spread hate quite easily, whereas Instagram, you can see who it is. They have a profile. I don't get any hate on my Instagram.
When it comes to, I suppose, getting clients off these platforms, do you find that you need a specific call to action, or they organically come through from just doing the content and the reps?
The more salesy, the worse conversion. So it's all about education, and people will find their way to the link. Like, very rarely do I say there's a link in my bio. The only time I say that is when I'm trying to sell tickets for my home buyer event, and my views on my content plummet. It's like TikTok knows I'm trying to get them off the platform. And so most naturally the way it occurs is people consume a fair bit of content and they gravitate to the link in bio. Everyone knows there's a link in bio that exists. Like, if you want to go down a rabbit hole, you can find one. Yeah. So yeah, I don't think I say too often. I'll mention like, if you need help and want to book a call, you know where to find me type of thing. But I never really say link in bio, book a call, I have spots available. I don't say that very often.
Do you batch content creation, or do you like make it on the fly? Like, I need a reel for today, I'm just going to make it.
I'm very much unplanned. And a lot of people who have followed my content for a while will probably be surprised by that because of the volume that I have been doing in the past. It's very much dependent upon the needs of the business as well. So yes, it always should be consistent, and I would love to be very consistent at it, like posting every single day ongoing. The reality is we actually have a capacity within our team, and if I did post consistently, I'd probably have too many leads. And I know it sounds really weird to say, like, what a great problem to have as a business, but you also have to keep reputation. You don't want to be turning away everybody and over market yourself, which I assume is somewhat of a niche problem. Some people just want, more and more leads, but we're very specific with what we work with. So I usually turn to my whiteboard with all my clients on it and go, what are we missing? And I'll make content that's specific to what we're missing, because the return on TikTok is so instant.
Yep.
To give you like a real example, we were looking at our board and we were missing a key buyer, a Hawthorn 2-bedroom apartment around $750. So I just typed out that profile, made a green screen and said, hey, we're missing this profile. If this is you, you know where to find me. They booked a call. This lovely young couple booked a call the following day. They signed on with my team members the day thereafter, and within 2 weeks they'd bought a property with us. And it was all from one TikTok and a very specific call out. So yeah, it can work that instantly. Not every time, but that was a really good example of it working.
Your content, I've noticed there is a lot of personal, there's a lot of work. Is it kind of all based on what you feel like putting out that day, or do you plan any content at all?
I don't plan anything at all.
Yeah, you just...
and that's like the story of my life. So I go a lot by feel, and I know that that's not the best way to go about things, and I've definitely made mistakes along the way. It's funny. So my brother's also in the business, and he's very much a planner and very much, measure things and track things and very numbers driven. I'm very feelings driven and probably too far feelings driven sometimes. So it is very much what I feel, what I think's missing. If I don't feel like sharing, I won't share. Like even the past 3 days, I actually haven't shared anything on my Instagram. I just haven't felt like I need to share anything. So I just haven't shared. So yeah, it just depends.
I feel like people feel like they're running out of content ideas often. That's a recurring thing for a lot of business owners.
Yeah.
I imagine you've made the same video 10 different ways multiple times over and over. How often do you feel you're repeating content versus like it's something new every time?
So I go on situation-based content to keep it fresh. So prime example are my property reviews, because yes, I reviewed hundreds and hundreds of properties, but no two have ever been the same. And so I find that like a new piece of content every time. I actually don't feel that I repeat myself too often in my content. It's just attached to a different situation. So I'll think about a client situation that happened and talk about that relative to, okay, you need to be realistic with your price point and your timing, for example. The one thing I do seem to repeat myself on is about like delusional buyers and talking about that. And that never gets old to me because it's so true. It is always true that people need to come to grips with what's actually affordable in their price point. But if you think about yourself as a consumer, I've heard the same things over and over again in different ways, and I'm not sick of it. Like I look at Gary Vee's content, I've heard him say the same thing, 1,000 times, but it still lands a different way if he says it slightly differently. So also, I think content creators have this weird perception that every follower sees every piece of content you make, and they don't.
Yeah.
They never do. So whilst you've made the same thing in 10 different ways, they might have only seen 2 of the ways that you said it. So it doesn't feel repetitive to them.
So do you have like, because you mentioned house reviews, like talking through the floor plan.
Yes.
Do you have like, we would call that like a pillar of content?
Yes, that is a pillar, yeah.
So do you have default pillars of content that you lean on when you're like, I don't know what to do today, or I haven't done a property review in a while, I'll go to that? Or
yes.
Is that how you sort of plan it in your head?
Definitely. So property reviews is one pillar. Replying to questions is another pillar, so just community engagement. And then factual news-based updates, so anything to do with the property market, what I'm seeing on a Saturday, maybe there's a headline that's come out that's really important. But yeah, out of all the content pillars, my property reviews always do the best. If I'm struggling for views, that's what I'll do.
What are your thoughts on niching? Because you mentioned at the very start that you were specifically first home buyers. Do you feel like that's attributed to the audience traction on the socials?
Definitely. So my default's always first home buyers. We're actually first and next home buyers. A property that someone will live in under $2 million in Metro Melbourne. That's our brief. And I can even categorise it to 4 key avatars that we work across, and I speak to those people. I've got them in my mind when I'm creating the content. I'm not reviewing $10 million McMansions, I'm really making sure it's relevant to the people who I'm going to be engaging with. Steve's a great example of niching in mortgage broking. There's another mortgage broker who only does loans for lawyers, and he actually used to be a lawyer himself. And that's a great niche. I mean, the lawyers are all networking together. They're in their little association. They all know he's the person we go to. So definitely niching down because it makes it easier to be found. If you're a generalist in a sea of same, then it's actually really hard to stand out. But if you are niche, you're specific, the hardest thing with that is, and I think a lot of business owners struggle, is saying no to people who aren't in that niche. So for us, we have had carrots dangled in front of us of $4-5 million purchases, which sound really exciting. I've taken them on at times and then regretted it instantly, knowing that actually that's not the market we deal in. That's not what we do. And I now have a system set up where I can refer to a suitable advocate who can look after them. But I think that's the biggest thing. If you are going to niche, then have a solution when someone doesn't fit your niche and send them elsewhere.
Has that got easier with more lead flow? Like you've got an excess of people that you can take on, so therefore it's easier to turn down people. Whereas if you're like, I need 5 people this month and I've only got 1,
yes,
it's very hard to say, sorry, we're not going to help you.
Exactly. So when your cash flow is fine, forecast is fine, and you've got your leads flowing nicely, all good. When you're in a lull and you get something in front of you, you're like, well, I'll take it because I don't have anything else. But I also think it comes down to mindset and the scarcity versus abundance part of that. The weirdest thing is, which I found recently, so I've niched so hard, 2 mil and under, we don't stray from that. If anything, we could even go further and go 1.5 mil and under. I had 2 inquiries in 1 week from people who, one found me on TikTok. He's actually a content creator himself. And the other one, I think he also found me on TikTok, but he was Sydney-based. Anyway, one had a budget of 7 mil and one had a budget of 10 mil. So big figures, right? And I said no. As hard as it was, I said, no, I'm not the right advocate for you. Here's an alternative.
Yep.
They both wanted to reduce their budget so they could work with me.
Oh, really?
I'm like, but you have, like, there's so much difference in what you have. They're trying to fit themselves into my model. I'm like, it doesn't work. It's not in your best interest. Here's someone who suits. So it's funny when you say no and people try and make it work. It's like that they can't handle the fact of you're saying no to them.
No, yeah.
But you've got to stick to it because otherwise, again, you become a generalist and you're not specialised in anything. Same as, the analogy of doctors being specialists, you know, a podiatrist, a cardiovascular surgeon, a neuroscientist, like they're all paid according to the fact that they're specialists and they're the people that you go to.
How would you go about actually picking a niche? Because I feel like if you accidentally pick the wrong niche, it's not hard to segue after the fact, but like would you start with all of your content in a specific niche and just see how the videos perform, and like how quickly would you try and gauge traction in a niche before you try and shift?
I think it has to come from a place of authenticity. I don't think you can pick a niche based on what you think is going to do really well. Definitely some market research and seeing where the gaps are in the market is a great place to start. But, you know, thinking back to Steve, his niche is actually true to himself, being Scottish, you know, so it's very much correlated to something that he can lean on. For me and my team, we are the demographic of first home buyers. We are, you know, under 35. And so we are our clients. I think if you can find something that you resonate with that then authentically comes through to your audience, that's a great place to start, as opposed to trying to pick a hole in the market and, you know, oh, well, that's missing, so I'll take that piece. It might line up like it kind of did for us. That's where the gap was, plus it's what I was as well. But I think sticking with the content for a period of time that you've actually got enough data to show it's working or not working and then pivoting. But it's funny, I've definitely seen people niche in the past try it for not a very long amount of time, and then they sort of became known, or people got it in the back of their mind, oh, that person specialises in XYZ. They've moved on because they thought the niche didn't work, and now they're actually getting the leads. And if they'd stuck it out just a little bit longer, it would work. So it's a timing game type of thing. And I reckon 12 months minimum to get something that's actually, you know, data-worthy.
Consistent, yeah.
Yeah.
I get a lot of clients that say like, we don't want to build a personal brand. We want to build a brand in general. Do you feel like Wallace advocates as the brand without the Emily Wallace behind it, the personality, would have the same traction? Or do you feel like you need the personal brand?
There's no way the business would be what it is without me doing content with my face on it, whether that's me as a personal brand or me as the founder of Wallace. So we have a Wallace Advocates page, both on Instagram and TikTok, and then I have my own page on Instagram and TikTok. The following's already there, so we're leveraging that for Wallace. But if I wanted to be a much bigger brand, and then for companies out there who are, you know, a team of 10 or 20 or whatever, you kind of have to keep showing the faces of the brand, not just one person, I think. And I've always had an identity crisis. Am I like Emily, the advocate that's the source of truth for home buyers in general, and I happen to own an advocacy? Or am I Emily, founder of Wallace, and I'm driving traffic to Wallace? And I'm always in this sort of to and fro of those two things, and I don't think I've mastered it at all. But there's no way the business would exist without me having my face on content.
With getting the team members invested in the content, your brother hated being on camera, like with a passion.
He did.
How did you find that process went as someone who's like, on one hand, if you want Wallace's content to succeed, it would be good to get some of the other team members on. What's your experience been with getting investment from the team when it comes to social media?
It's really hard because it's not their job. At the end of the day, their job is to fulfill and create and provide a service for our clients. It's not to do marketing. And so to have them on board in the content was an added bonus. But the way that I got them invested in it was that your job is going to be so much easier if someone already knows you or feels like they know you and trusts you. So I think that sort of part of linking it to making their job easier helped, and our clients know what to expect. We've got an intro video that you help make of Harry and Sam, you know, walking through properties and explaining what their jobs are and everything like that. That has been a great intro for clients to understand who the team is. But it is hard, like I think for business owners out there who are really big on content, but their team isn't, you kind of have to warm them up to it, and it might not be for them. You can't expect that everyone's camera ready or happy to put their face to camera.
If you don't get buy-in from the team members, which is totally fine, it's their prerogative, would you as a business owner then double down on the personal brand?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And if it's working, why not, you know? And if it's not, or if you're someone who doesn't feel like you can do that, hire someone who is the face of the brand. and they do the socials. And that's their whole remit is marketing and social media with their face attached to it. Like that's part of the job description. You will be on camera.
So if you hire a marketing manager because let's say I'm the business owner, I don't have the time or the headspace, or I just don't want to get into marketing, and I'm going to hire someone else to bring into the business to actually do the marketing, you would have it as a requirement that they're the person on camera actually making the content.
It depends to me, creating marketing ideas and actually being the person who execute the ideas can be two different people and often is. So it's almost like an ambassador role, like you're the face of the brand. You might still have someone who comes up with the marketing ideas, but the execution of them is by the same person with the same face that people become familiar with over time.
Do you think there's a risk there for the person up and leaves the business and therefore your whole brand is invested in that person's face?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So if you can mix it up, if you have multiple faces to a brand, that would be a really good thing. And then I guess it comes back to, well, should it be a personal brand? Because you know you as a person, what you're going to do and you're reliable to yourself. So it's a known quantity. It's a really hard one to get right. And I think of there's a clothing brand called Remy online and the founder of that, her name's Riley. She's now got her sister in the business and I think she's got 3 others. And you constantly see the girls, there's 5 of them total. And yes, you know that Riley owns the business, but the 5 of them all do content and they alternate who does the content. And so if one of them left, it wouldn't be the end of the world, you know, so they've sort of diversified with that. I think that that's a really smart way to go about it. But it is a risk if you're sick, if you shut up shop or you move on and sell. That's an asset. Like you are an asset to the business if you're the marketing department.
If you were going to build a business purely to sell, do you think personal brand is the right approach or the wrong approach?
Well, it's funny you ask that because I am building a business purely to sell, not my Wallace one, a separate business. And I have been in this conundrum because I know that if I put the personal brand to it, I can grow it really quickly. But on the sale, like if I want to sell out of the business, it's very hard to sell out with your face being the reason people come to it. So no, I think it has to be faceless or have someone's face attached to it that isn't the owner of the business.
If you were going to do content for Wallace, but you couldn't have your personal like brand associated with it. Pretend you're going to sell Wallace hypothetically in this scenario. You can't have Emily's face all over the content. What type of content would you make? Would it still be similar or would it be totally different?
It'd be totally different because it would have to be explainer videos, maybe using cartoons or, you know, some sort of animation, voiceovers of walkthroughs. It would be quite difficult, I think, because it's such an educational-based form of content, what we do, but it would have to maybe just shift gears and be more about the properties rather than the people.
Yeah. And you would focus on visuals really heavily with context of we went to this auction, this happened, but it's all voiceover rather than having someone's face to it. So
exactly.
Maybe even they sit down, do a podcast, get a bunch of conversations about what's happened in the business and then pull visuals later or like collect visuals along the way with the team just filming on their phone or getting a videographer in or however you do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
When it comes to people actually wanting to reach out to Wallace, do you have specific systems in, like you said, link in bio before, but once someone clicks a link in bio, do you have a process or a system that's clean for people? Because I imagine their attention span is short and they're like, I'm going to reach out to Emily and they click there and they click there and then they get distracted kind of thing. Like how important is that back end flow to actually get a meeting booked?
Sure. So it's a link in bio, which is a link tree, and it has a whole lot of things on there. But the first one is book a free discovery call. Then the others are like webinar replays or tickets to the home buy or whatever. But the first one is book a free discovery call, and that links straight to the calendar. It's not to the website. It's actually to a custom made page to the calendar, and it's a few clicks. Like it's pick the time, fill out the questions, press OK. And then I've got a whole back-end system that does all the automation on that as well.
Like text message following up and
text,
confirmation.
Email. Then my assistant goes in manually and also checks what area they're in, requests properties if they haven't put any properties in. It's a whole process. And my strike rate on discovery calls of people attending, it would be like 99%. People rarely are a no-show. There's so much confirmation behind it and buy-in from them to actually send through things before the call that it's very rare that I dial out and someone doesn't pick up.
What happens if someone doesn't fill out all the info? Like, so they go to your link tree, right?
Yes.
They book a calendar invite straight away for an appointment?
Yeah, they can book straight, but before they pick the time and then they've got to fill out the details before it's confirmed.
Oh, so it's actually in that Linktree process.
Yes,
They've got to go through a form and fill everything in before it'll actually give them the time slot.
Yeah, exactly.
So they've done their homework. They've got some buy-in. There's some weight to the meeting, and it's not a time waster of I'll just see how much Emily is. Oh, it's more than $1,000. I won't go.
Oh, and there's also an opt-in of a minimum budget for our services as well, so that people aren't booking if they don't actually have funds allocated to a buyer's agent, and even asked, have you got funds allocated?
Yeah. So it's like, does it tell them how much?
Minimum fees are on there as well.
Yeah. So like if you're not willing to invest at least this, don't bother booking a call kind of thing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I reckon that's about everything I've got for you today.
Sure.
I've run out of ideas to pick your brain, but I really appreciate you coming out and sharing your knowledge. I know it's interesting to see someone who's had so much success in the space. And I really think you've succeeded in both building the brand, but also the personal brand. So sharing the insight, I really appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
No problem.